Good afternoon. I am Janie Buckland with the West Virginia FEW Families United for Education, and I'm talking today with the principal and head of school for West Virginia Virtual Academy. Cheryl is the academic advisor, administrative. I knew I'd get that wrong, Cheryl. You'll correct me. And Doug is the head of school. So Cheryl, why don't we start with you? If you would just tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got started with West Virginia Virtual Academy.
Well, thank you, Jamie. I appreciate the opportunity to spend some time with you and your audience today. So I am the academic administrator for West Virginia Virtual Academy, which is just a fancy way of saying I'm the principal. And I have been working in education over 20 years, but I've spent 10 doing virtual education. I fell in love with virtual education when my own child needed a virtual learning environment. So when I watched his experiences and I said, I need to be a part of this. So I was a part of actually another Stride K-12 school in Pennsylvania for a number of years. And then when I came home to West Virginia, I've just been waiting for charter schools to enter our state. So when I saw that West Virginia Virtual was coming and it was a Stride K-12 school, I said, I got to be a part of this. So I'm here and am loving what we are bringing to the state of West Virginia.
Thank you. That's fantastic. So you are a native West Virginian here in the Mountain State. That's great.
Yep.
Okay.
Product of Kanawha County Schools.
Oh, okay. Wonderful. That's great. All right, Doug, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, your background, and how you got started with West Virginia Virtual?
Absolutely. I just want to second what Cheryl said. It's a real pleasure to be with you. I love what you're doing for the families of West Virginia, just educating them and working with groups like us to make sure that families understand what their options are. So it really is an honor and a pleasure. So thank you very much. So I got my start in teaching in New York. I taught in Brooklyn through an alternative teaching pathway program called the New York City Teaching Fellows. Moved back to West Virginia. I am also a native. I grew up in Charleston. I live in Raleigh County right now and have been here for the past 16 years. Was advocating for alternative certification programs in West Virginia because there is a huge teacher shortage. It's actually worse now than it's ever been. I don't know if you've seen some of the new articles, but it's really a dire situation. And I was afforded the opportunity to start with the West Virginia Department of Education 14 years ago. And I took over a program called the Transition to Teaching Program. It's a federal $3.5 million grant that West Virginia got and recruited about 150 teachers. Many of them are still working. They've moved up to leadership positions, earned doctorates, and all kinds of wonderful things for the educational world in West Virginia. Transitioned about 7 years ago to work with the career tech ed field. I just love the vocational field. I love, what it means for post-secondary achievement. Many of the students do go on to college, and those that don't have the credentials to be very successful. As an advocate for thinking outside the box, providing many different ways for kids to learn, when I saw that West Virginia had charter schools, especially virtual schools, I was thrilled. And so this particular school, West Virginia Virtual Academy, is a career readiness focused school. And my interest in career ready, credentials and getting kids prepared for post-secondary when they graduate, coupled with an online environment and school choice, it just seemed like a really good fit. And I'm very grateful for the opportunity to be working with this organization and helping the kids in West Virginia.
So I want to start with kind of just tossing out some things that I just spent like the last hour and a half talking with a couple folks who are they are curious about the school choice world, and they're looking for the best arguments for the school choice world. And so I had the pleasure of talking with them for a little bit, and they asked some great questions. But I just want to share, I was a hard sell when it came to school choice because I'm a veteran homeschooler. And so I kind of had the mindset that why do we need to rely on the government for any of this? And I was a hard sell for about 9 months. I really looked at all of the arguments. So I kind of want to start with that by saying that some of the concerns that folks may have about charter schools is, are these teachers credentialed? So Doug, I love that you're talking about these alternative certifications. Can Cheryl, can you share a little bit about who you're hiring to lead these students in this learning environment?
Okay, that's a great question. And I am extremely proud to say that every teacher at West Virginia Virtual Academy is certified and is teaching within their credentialed area. We also have 2 nationally boarded teachers. So we have an amazing instructional staff. Everyone is certified, they're qualified, and they're experienced. And I think that is something that we can offer to our students here in West Virginia.
I love that. Doug, do you want to talk a little bit about having been your experience in public education through traditional district education and now through the charter school? Do you want to talk about, you were saying you were recruiting those who were getting certified to teach. So what would you like to add to that you guys are hiring and partnering with certified teachers?
Well, I think students deserve to have somebody with content knowledge. And I recognize that people in West Virginia, as residents in other states, they want their kids being educated by somebody who has the teaching certification. The teacher preparation programs really do provide a lot of information, more than content, more than just English and math and science. There's a lot of pedagogy and classroom management and things that you do learn in those programs. But you can also learn while you're, on the job. And so it was very important to me whenever we are going through these hiring decisions that we really only focus in on teachers who are properly credentialed. And really just to second what Cheryl said, we not only have certified teachers, but they're actually teaching in their content area. So we're very blessed to be able to say that. I know a lot of schools can't say that, don't have enough teachers. And so we're very, very fortunate. And I think Cheryl will probably go into it a little bit later. But our staff really, really is amazing. They're some of the most talented educators that I've had the pleasure of working with.
Let's talk a little bit about the online platform. When I, as a homeschool mom, I believe he was 5th grade. My eldest was 5th grade. And I had my 3rd child and I needed to outsource some instruction. And I got, at that time, I won't age myself too much, but at that time, for outsourcing that, it was a DVD, and I can't even remember, quite honestly, like the name of the publisher, but we had to put the DVD in and he would watch that lesson and then he would have questions, and I had no idea where to go in the manual. And here I was, I had been homeschooling for several years. So it wasn't that I didn't have the ability to lead him or to be involved in his education, but it was just the logistics of how it was very clunky. And so let's talk about the online platform that has come from just streaming content or just putting in that DVD to now with virtual learning where you actually have access to a teacher, because I think that's a concern that many families have when they talk about an online option. What are they going to do when their child has a question? How are they plugged in? So Doug, if we want to start with you a little bit and what you can add to that, and then we'll see what Cheryl has to add.
Absolutely. So this is an area where we really excel because this isn't emergency virtual education. The entire platform is built for virtual education. It uses Stride as the curriculum and the learning platform. And Stride has been in business for about 20 years. Mm-hmm. So, the idea of the platform, they've tailored it. They've really been working with it and are really the industry leader for providing that, well, I'd hate to say platform again because I'm running out of words, but the platform for students to learn on. But The biggest difference is kids will have live instruction. We actually, this was wonderful. School starts in just a couple weeks, and we are already connecting with parents. And Cheryl did a great job of inviting some parents to a lunch and learn yesterday, where we got to meet some of our parents and even a couple of the kids, and explain to them what their daily schedule looks like. And they have live instruction. It varies from grade to grade, because we have to make sure that we, give the PE and the health and the art and the science and the math. And so an 8th grader schedule is going to look a lot different than a kindergartner schedule, but they do have live instruction. And as far as access to teachers, there's time built in where if a student needs extra help in a specific area, those teachers are available later on in the afternoon. Mm-hmm. So it's very much it's a traditional school day, about 8 to 3, where kids are engaged. We have a lunch built in. Kids are afforded some breaks. So it's very much different than what many people in West Virginia experienced 2 years ago. And this is not emergency education. This is virtual education as it is supposed to function.
I love that. Okay, Cheryl, what are your thoughts?
So, I definitely want to echo what Doug is saying, and I'm kind of in the weeds of all of this. So I'm playing in the courses, and if you're a kiddo, you're going to log in, you're going to click a link in the morning, and it's going to take you to a teacher, and there will be instruction, just like in a brick and mortar classroom. You'll have your bell ringer and your direct instruction and your group work and little quizzes, and you're even going to have a little homework, and it's a really robust experience. And then during the morning, there's what I'm calling an enrichment period. And the teachers are going to be doing virtual field trips and bringing in speakers and doing content related activities and games. And then we even have more time built in the schedule where kids can get remediation in small group or in a tutoring session. So there is a lot of access to our teachers and to good instruction. And we can serve both ends. We're providing enrichment as well as remediation. So we can meet each of these kids where they're at.
I think that as we look at the learning loss that we're coming off of over these last couple of years, I think that families, what I hear from families is they are looking for answers now. They do not have the time to wait and see if something works. I think that, as we've already mentioned, the responsive education that they've had the last 2 years, which was in response to a pandemic and to factors outside of our control, if you will. And so they're not looking for that. They're looking for something that is sustainable. I think it's important to note that this is new-ish to West Virginia, but as you all have already mentioned, your platform, you guys are an extension of this entity that has been serving families in this way for close to 20 years. So if I'm a family and I'm looking for this, do I have to provide my own laptop, my own iPad? What's the investment? What are you asking from me, the parent, in order to be partnered with West Virginia Virtual for my students?
So the first part, as far as technology, you'll have to let us know if you need a computer whenever you enroll, and we are able to provide that. I just want to make sure that everybody watching understands that we are a public charter school. And so as a public school, we do not charge any tuition. So I know you've been doing a lot of stuff, trying to help people who qualified for the Hope Scholarship. We are not associated with the Hope Scholarship. We do not charge tuition. We are able to help out with internet, if families don't have sustainable internet. So we have to provide these things, and we have processes in place when there is a need. So if you needed a computer, we can certainly meet that need. If your child already has a computer, then we're going to figure out how to make sure that they're able to access the platform without a computer of our own. Mm-hmm. That's what that looks like. I wanted to make sure that I brought up for the students in other states that were enrolled in a Stride K-12 school, a virtual school across the country. When the COVID pandemic hit, their learning was not interrupted. They went about their regular day to day. And I know there are some studies, I don't know the specifics, but students at our schools across the country did not experience the same level of learning loss because their learning wasn't interrupted. So if you're wondering about the sustainability, there are plenty of research articles out there that would say, it worked over the past couple years. And so the kids that we serve are not under the same loss that many other students experienced.
Yeah. And if I could jump in on that, because Doug has said the phrase that really rings to my heart, and that's learning loss. And we have a plan in place because I fully expect that our kids are going to be coming in and maybe missing some skills. So we have a plan in place across all of our content areas to help close those gaps in literacy and numeracy. And all of our teachers are prepared for that with remediation. And then we have kids who are more advanced. We can continue to push them and develop those skills. So I think that's something unique that we're really ready to do and are excited to do, because when I hear a kid with learning loss, that hurts my heart as an educator. And I want the kids to excel.
Yeah. And we're looking at enrolling students. You guys have kindergarten through 10th grade this year.
Correct.
Right?
Yes.
And what deadlines should we be aware of right now as we're anticipating, now that we're in August, what are some dates that we should have on our radar?
So August 12th, if you want to join with us on our first day of school, August 22nd, because we have to make sure that we get students materials to them. They're not coming to us, so we can't just hand them a textbook. We have to order student materials, and that can take 3 to 5 days. So we will have cohorts starting every Monday through October, whenever the state requires the October enrollment cutoff. That's sort of, so we don't have a specific date in October. We're still working through that. But August 12th, if you want to join us on the 22nd, then it would be if you joined us sometime after that, you would have to start on the 29th. And again, that's just to make sure that we have time to get the students the materials. We still got plenty of time. We've got a couple months. Right.
And so then let's talk about, I think that there is a transition as we talk about education and transforming education in the Mountain State. There's been a transition from focusing solely on teachers and teacher credentials. While that's an important piece, to me, there's a transition to conversing about the learning environment and the learning of the student, because those aren't necessarily always the same thing. The teacher is not necessarily always the whole factor for the learning of the child. The environment matters, the curriculum matters. So Cheryl, why don't you talk a little bit about a learning environment for a family when they're choosing a platform and when they're choosing West Virginia Virtual?
Okay. And I think one of the things that West Virginia Virtual is going to offer is that kind of holistic learning environment. So we have really engaging classrooms. There are no sage on the stage teachers. They are working with kids and kids in groups. But what I think is important is we are bringing socialization to these kids. We've got local clubs. We're going to be doing events. We even have a Minecraft club, and kids are so excited about that. As I tell people, we got Minecraft, and they're like, yes. But we've got also the opportunity to socialize. And I keep watching our enrollment and figuring out, where do our families live and where can I go and meet them? So we're going to be planning events to bring our kids and our families together so that you don't feel like you're sitting at home alone all day long. We want you to be engaged with your peers and other students. And we want the parents, the learning coaches, to be engaged with their other learning coaches so that we can provide that best supportive environment to the kids. We are also bringing social emotional learning into every one of our classrooms this year to make sure that our kids' social and emotional needs are met as well as their academic needs. And we have an amazing guidance counselor who is bringing that Hope program to our school. So I think that's going to really impact our students in a very positive way. Did I miss anything, Doug?
The only thing that I would add is, you ask about learning environment, and I've gotten this question before. Well, who is this for? And the answer is anybody who thinks this is a good choice. Why a student would choose their home learning environment, and it doesn't. I mean, they might go to work with their parents, and I don't know what their classroom looks like for them. But as far as a learning environment, we're able to meet the kid wherever they feel comfortable. And if they're more comfortable in whatever that environment looks like, we're able to meet them there and provide whatever they need on a much more tailored basis.
Yeah. And I think that what families in West Virginia are looking for right now is something that they can access without it being like, how many hoops should they have to jump through? Because we are seeing, Doug, you mentioned this is not a part of Hope Scholarship. And for a lot of folks, when they look at school choice or they hear school choice, they it's all together. It's hard to distinguish between one or the other. But for a lot of the families that I'm working with, they're looking for something, an alternative to Hope Scholarship. And because now they don't have the funding that they thought they were going to have. And so, as you said, this is a free option, but they're also looking for something that somebody has walked before them. So you guys are bringing this credibility and sustainability, even though it's a new option to West Virginia. This is not a new entity that's providing this. And of course, you both have a history in education that you're bringing to the table. But I think what our families are looking for is something that they can access without it being too cumbersome on them. So can you talk a little bit about what enrollment looks like? If they reach out to you, they go on your website, what are the steps to getting these kids set up for August 22nd?
You're welcome to call us. I don't know if you'll put it up on the screen, but it's 304-807-9370. They can visit the website, WVVA.K12.com. We have a whole enrollment team that, we have to get proof of residency. We have to have immunization records. We have to have birth certificates, pretty standard things. And then a lot of the behind the scenes work, we work with the counties to get transfer records. It's really, it's not burdensome to the families. There's just a process and there's paperwork that, West Virginia law and code and things require. But I will just say we have a great team, and if anybody has questions, needs help, we're there to support that. And there was something else you asked, and I was going to give you an answer, Jamie, and it slipped my mind. I apologize. I started to go down something else, and then it just slipped my mind. It'll come to me.
You'll think of it. You'll come to, and you can message it to us. We can put it in the comments, and we will put the contact information in the comments to be sure that viewers who watch this, we're streaming on Twitter and YouTube and Facebook. So we'll make sure that wherever this is being seen, we'll put your information in the comments for parents so that they have access to getting things going. So Cheryl, do you want to add anything to that?
Now, I think in terms of process, it's no worse than a brick and mortar school. I mean, having gone through it myself as a parent, it's literally like walking down to your neighborhood school. So you just need your proof of residence. You need, if you have a transcript, that would sure make life easy. If you're a special needs student and have special services, if you have any of that paperwork, that would be terrific. But if not, as Doug says, we can get that from the local counties. And we just would love to have you all come and join us.
Well, I know that as a parent, I still have my 10-year-old and 5-year-old whom I am educating. And it's kind of, you almost have to reorient your thinking quite a bit when, I've always only just thought we would always homeschool. But now as my 5th grader is getting older and I'm doing this work with the few, it's not off our radar to potentially enroll in a virtual or an online platform in years to come. So what I love that's happening in West Virginia is we have these options, and parents are being recognized as an active part of their child's education. in making that decision. So what we're telling folks is if you don't need custodial care, you don't need an in-person setting Monday through Friday, and your child is K through 10th grade, this is an option where they can put in a phone call and start the ball rolling and know that they're going to be connected with providers who can educate their children with these teachers, learning opportunities, field trips, and not feel like they have to be the source of all the things. So a lot of folks think that, it's either homeschool or brick and mortar school, but what you guys are offering is an option for parents to remove that responsibility and to not have to put the DVD in the computer and then not have the textbook, because that was not a good experience for us. So you guys are meeting a need that we have. Thank you so much for talking with me
today. I add in one quick point? I know we go to K-10, but next year we'll add in 11, and the year after that we'll add in 12. So this is a school that kids can really come and walk all the way across the stage at graduation with.
I love that. Doug, anything to add before we wrap up?
So I did remember what I wanted to say, because you were talking about, families coming that are interested. So one of the things that I haven't touched on that really sets us apart from other virtual schools is we are a career readiness focused school. And so students beginning in middle school, like you said, your son is in 5th grade. Our middle school students begin taking career exploration classes. They have a chance to learn about different things. And as they move into high school, we have our high school students, our 9th and 10th graders, taking a business class focused on Microsoft, where they're going to get Microsoft certifications. And then as we add 11th graders and 12th graders, we will continue to provide those the career pathways focused on students getting credentials. And those credentials equal post-secondary success. So if you want to go to college, great. You have some credentials and some learning under your belt to go into the engineering program because you've taken, some STEM classes through us. If you want to go into the workforce, we're going to provide you credentials so that you can have a leg up, and an employer would look at you first. So that was one thing. You had asked something about, families coming over. That was the other thing I was thinking about.
That's super important. I'm glad that you thought of that. Well, what we'll do is put all of the contact information in the comments, and then if anybody has any specific questions, I know who to direct them to. I'll send them your way. So thank you all so much for taking the time to talk with us today, and I look forward to touching base with you guys in the middle of the year, at the end of year, to hear more about how you guys are meeting the needs of West Virginia families.
That'd be great. Thank you, Jamie.
Thank you, Jamie.